Live from the backstretch at historic Saratoga Racecourse, this is Saturdays at the Spa with Brian Nadeau. Saturdays at the Spa is brought to you by CapitalOTBBet.com, New York's premier wagering site. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today. The new Capital mobile app. Wager anywhere, anytime. Download it free from the iTunes Store or Google Play. And the Nell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Good morning, Brian Nadeau with you. Saturdays at the Spa here at Saratoga, and the theme, of course, as always, is the weather. And once again, we had Noah's Ark Day in downtown Saratoga last night. Rained like cats and dogs. If you're late to the party or you didn't catch the handicappers report with Mike Callahan and myself, we're off the turf in 4 races today. The first, the second, the 7th, and the 10th. The good news is we'll keep it on for the Lake Placid. And I'm going to have Graham Motion on a little bit later at about 10:40, 10:45, and he's got the Way I Am. We're going to talk a little turf in the Lake Placid. Really good group of 7 in there, and Chad's got a couple in Rushing Fall in significant form. That I think it's a really good race for the 3-year-old fillies on the turf, and it's Alabama Day too, which is exciting. And we're going to bring Roddy Valenti in a few minutes here. He's got Coach Rocks for the locals, definitely in with a puncher's chance, and a race where Mike Callahan and I just talked about it. Midnight Bijou is a deserving favorite. She's clearly the horse to beat, but as Mike and I went a different way, I don't think she has to win the Alabama, and that's where it makes for a really fun and compelling race, because I think a couple gals in here, I know, like I said, Roddy Valenti is going to be on shortly, and Coach Rocks, I know they're looking forward to getting 10 furlongs on the main track, and I'm going to have Kenny McPeak on in the middle here, right around 10:20, and he's got Eskimo Kisses, who I would think she's another one that looks forward to 10 furlongs as well. And I think that's going to be might be the leveler a little bit, where Midnight Bijou, again, she's clearly the horse to beat, and in Talk Verve, to me, who I've got on top is I think the Now filly in a very logical, likely co-favorite second choice. But I don't think either of them have to win, and I think 10 furlongs on the main track, which I would think in some way, shape, or form around 5:15 tonight, is still going to have a lot of moisture in it, regardless of what happens with the weather. I know the sun's supposed to come out, but as I look outside right now, it's overcast. It might rain again. So there's a lot of intangibles that are going to go into this Alabama a little bit later, and I think distance and way the track plays is going to be a couple of them. The pace looks pretty honest for a 1.25 mile race on the main track, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out and who goes, and if there's a little chess going on, because I think there are, at least on paper, a lot of them that want to get involved early. So I think that's an interesting factor as well, and to see who goes and who doesn't, and if it's a little cat and mouse early on. Again, we're going 1.25 miles, and like I said, I don't think a lot of these gals are going to relish that 10th furlong. So it could be interesting in that regard as well. So we've got a good card today. Pacific Classic Day out at Del Mar, which is pretty cool. Accelerate is going to look to validate that he's the top older horse in training right now. I know West Coast and Collected are close to getting back on the work tab. I think that's going to help too, but I think Accelerate clearly right now, at least in training, the top older horse, so keep an eye on that. Last night at the wee hours of the morning, 1 a.m., Winks did it again, 26 in a row, I believe, and I've got to say this, I don't think she's beating much out in Australia, and she was 1-9 last night, and I believe an 11-horse field. I've kind of always said if she ever came over here, if she ever ran at Royal Ascot, I don't know if that streak stays intact. But my goodness, if you saw the race last night, and I punished myself by staying up to watch it, she has a devastating turn of foot, and go back and check it out. She actually won the race named in her honor. I can't ever remember a horse still in training, winning a race named after her. So like I said, I think 26 in a row for Winx. She got a comeback race last time, and she'll move forward off that. So it's pretty cool. A lot going on here out in Del Mar and abroad. Big stuff at York going on this week as well. And then we bring to the Travers next week, and Mike and I hinted at it a little bit. We've got Wonder Gadot taking on the boys next week. It's going to be a lot of fun, a big week coming up at Saratoga. But as I mentioned, it's Alabama Day here at the track. We're going to take our first break at Saturdays at the Spa. When I come back, Roddy Valente and Coach Rocks. Stay tuned.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very oppressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need it. It's right there in our hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Nathan to help them.
For 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 96-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients and served in a home-like setting, where everyone is welcome. Some things have changed in the last 96 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Welcome back. Brian Nato with you. Saturdays at the Spa, Alabama Day. We've got Kenny McPeak coming up. He's going to run Eskimo Kisses in the Alabama. A little later on, Graham Motion in the Lake Placid with The Way I Am. But it's going to bring us to our first guest. I bring in my buddy, our local hero, so to speak. Roddy Valente joins me on Alabama Day. And as a local guy, Roddy, I know I've seen you talk a little bit. To have a horse in the Alabama who's without a doubt a player in here, it's got to be pretty cool for you.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Just the thought of running in the race is exciting, and hopefully we can be competitive and go to the next level with her.
Yeah, you and I were just talking off the air. Midnight Bijou is undoubtedly the horse to beat. She's got the best credentials. She's a Grade 1 winner, but we were talking a little bit off the air. I don't think she has to win. And I know you've spoken a lot, and Dale Roman certainly has, your trainer, about the 1.25 miles. I think today, I've used the word the leveler. I think today that could bring a lot of these gals together. The 10th furlong today in deep stretch here in the Alabama.
It could bring them together or it could separate them.
One or the other.
So, it's funny, Brian, but 2 of my best horses were basically allowance horses.
Right.
And when they went a distance of ground, like going 1.5 miles, they became stake horses. So, to me, you got to be able to get 1.25 miles, and maybe it makes a horse a little bit better than possibly what they do going
right.
1 mile and a 16th or 1 mile and an 1/8.
Coach Rocks was always maybe a work in progress, sprinting, turf, main track, 1 turn, and couldn't get it done. Finally gets to 2 turns. And runs off winning at Gulfstream. And the first video we're going to bring up here is her in the Gulfstream Park Oaks from a stalking trip, the Grade 2 this winter. We're going to show this from the backstretch on. And what was really, like I said, I know she broke through in the maiden special weight, but I think this was the first race that really stamped her as a player in this division. Talk a little bit about the coming out party in the Gulfstream Park Oaks.
You know, it took a while for the light to go off with her, to go on, I should say. And then she figured it out. And honestly, we thought she was a grass horse and to go long. She's got pedigree for that. But it was funny that day. Saez was on her, and Dale said, you know, take back with her, make one run when she broke her maiden. And he didn't listen to Dale, which was great. And then she broke and she won by 8 or something. And then the next race she was compromised by the ride, but you know, she came well off the pace to win, and she was very impressive that day.
What's the trip you're looking for today? Because she has shown to be versatile. She's won on the lead, as you mentioned, and then you see her here just, you know, blowing this open in off the far turn. You know, I think there's some speed in this race today. What's the ideal trip if you could draw it up on the board?
You know,
how's it looking?
I like her post, number one. I think the speed is outside of us. Vouvet, I think she's going to break running. And I think, you know, Louis got to basically play the break and figure it out from there. What's the perfect scenario? I always say this about horse racing and my jockeys. I said, as long as you don't tell me how to crush stone, I won't tell you how to ride my horse. So with that being said, I think, you know, he's going to play the break, and I would, me personally, I'd like to see him laying off of it a little bit and try to make a run like she did when she won the Oaks down at Gulfstream.
We're going to bring up the next video here. You know, you joked, I said, you're not going to show the Delaware Park Oaks getting drubbed by Red Ruby, but we are going to show, I thought, a very good second in the Black Eyed Susan over a sloppy track. The day before the Preakness, she set the pace that day, kind of got pressured on the lead, but I thought she held well to be second. I would have thought, you know, as much respect as we have, here she is down inside kind of getting pressured, and Red Ruby would have been the now horse. Red Ruby might have been favored today, ran a giant number in the Del Park Oaks. You joked, good to get away from her. I still thought this was a pretty good performance to be clear second after, you know, being tested on the lead.
Brian, she gets brownie points for this because she came 2 weeks off of the Oaks race, and my honest opinion, if Red Ruby was in this race today, she'd be even money.
Yeah.
That filly is so good, it's unbelievable. If I never have to face her again, I'll be the happiest guy in the world.
Yeah, and you're a clear second this day. Red Ruby unfortunately got nicked up a little bit. Brings us to today, as we talked about, the 1.25 miles. It's definitely could be the, you know, really what brings everybody together. Dale Romans, I saw. You said he's been saying to you for months now, really, that this is a 1.25 mile horse. What gives him that indication, gives you that indication she's going to handle this trip today?
He's embedded it in us, you know, my partners and myself, that after she won the Oaks down there, he said, Roddy, we're going to the Alabama. You know, and you listen to that, and it's, you know, it's 5 months out, and you say to yourself, you know, you got to stay sound, and you got to stay the course. And I got to say this about Dale. I don't have a lot of horses with him. He's been my friend for 25 years. And he knows how to win big races.
Right.
And, you know, that's important in this game because there's a lot of good trainers, and I have the utmost respect for a lot of them. But you think about it, how many really win the big races? And there's something about leading into that or leading up to that, their training program. But Dale's, I guess to answer your question, the 1.5 miles, I think she's more of a plotter, you know.
Yep.
I've been watching her gallop. He's had, you know, long 1.5 mile gallops with her every day. And one good thing, even if she's not of this caliber, she's gonna run good today. And if she hits the board, I'll be ecstatic. There's a lot of nice horses in there.
You're a handicapper. You know how to handicap. You know what you're doing. On paper, she's not fast enough to win this race. How do you bridge the gap to get maybe closer to the top gals? Is it the 1.25 miles?
It's the distance for me. I mean, that's the only way I can. You know, if you're going to go off the speed figures and distances that are run at 1 mile and 1/16 and 1 mile and 1/8, we're not fast enough.
Right.
And like I indicated earlier, 2 of my best horses, they became stake horses going 1.5 miles. And you know, if some of the fillies can't get the 1.25 miles, I think we can, and then we bridge it somewhat. But you know, I don't have any great expectations to say that, you know, we should be in the top 3 or 4. I look at Kenny's horse as a nice horse. She looks like she sets up perfect for the mile and a quarter. The 8 horse to me is a trump. You know, if she's that good, she's gonna step away today. And you know, Asmussen's other horse is well respected outside of the favorite. I think it's a good bunch of fillies, and the fillies in general this year are very, very strong, very strong. You know, taking Mononamy Girl out of the mix and Godot. You know, it's just a good bunch of fillies this year.
Lastly, before I let you go, Rick Pitino is a co-owner of this filly. You said he's going to be at Del Mar today, but how about owning a horse with Coach Pitino, who, you know, that's got to be pretty neat. He's a good guy, huh?
He's a sweetheart. You know, I love it. You know, and he said something the other day which I kind of appreciated. He said, being where the race is run, I'd be more happy for Roddy to win the race than I would be for myself. Right. And, you know, that's a true friend. He's a great guy and a great partner.
Coach Rocks wins the Alabama today. What's the over-under on people in the winner's circle?
You know, I got asked a lot of crazy questions this past week, and they said, well, how many are going to be up there? Like, to me, you know, I say 100.
I had like 150 in my mind.
Everybody I talk to says, I'll see you in the winner's circle. I mean, just see me hit the board and I'll be happy.
Roddy Valente, Coach Rocks today, you know, in with a puncher's chance in a good Alabama. Certainly is going to take some money. Certainly in play here as we go a mile and a quarter. And as you said, she has a trainer who knows how to win a mile and a quarter race up here. Upset American Pharoah with Keen Ice a couple of years ago, and Coach Rocks stretching out today to a mile and a quarter. Roddy, I want to thank you. We've got a $100 gift certificate for Jacob and Anthony's for you in town, right over by the Holiday Inn over there, the Hampton Inn, excuse me, as you see it here, 38 High Rock, $100 gift certificate. Great happy hour over there. Great menu as well. Roddy, I want to thank you. I want to wish you all the best with Coach Rocks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks for stopping by on a busy Saturday. It's going to bring us to our second break here on Saturdays at the Spa. We got Roddy here talking Coach Rocks. When I come back, Kenny McPeak's going to be in here talking Eskimo Kisses, another gal that we think mile and a quarter is going to be within her wheelhouse. Stay tuned. When we come back, Ken McPeak.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very impressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need it. It's right there in our hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Naita to help them.
For 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 96-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients and served in a home-like setting where everyone is welcome. Some things have changed in the last 96 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Now it's a global series. The best racers from all over the world, the best trainers, the best jockeys.
You can get a free entry into the Breeders' Cup, and everybody wants to run in a Breeders' Cup race.
You get your travel expenses paid for the Breeders' Cup. Automatic berth takes a lot of pressure off.
If we're considering 2 different races, and one was a win and you're in and one was not, that would be the tiebreaker.
It's probably the best thing that's happened to racing in the last 10 years.
Breeders' Cup Challenge, win, and you're in.
A day at the track isn't complete without a night at the Horseshoe. Great food, hot music, and cold drinks. So why go downtown when all the action's just across from the track? The Horseshoe Inn at the corner of Nelson and Gridley.
Good morning. Welcome back. Saturdays at the Spa. Brian Nadeau with you. Big thanks to Roddy Valenti for stopping by, who has Coach Rocks. And I bring in still Alabama Day here, and we talk little Eskimo kisses. I bring in Ken McPeak. Ken, I appreciate you stopping by. A busy Saturday. I know that. One of the, I would think, live, maybe not long shots, but live price players in the Alabama Eskimo kisses today.
Yeah, we've been setting her up for this race. 1.25 miles, I think, is going to be an ideal distance for her. And we need some pace in the race, but that's out of our control.
Right.
But she's doing fantastic, and we got a nice prep here early in the meet to run over the track, and I think you'll see her move forward off that.
Yeah, I think that is the key when we're talking Alabama is the 1.25 miles. I think that I mentioned it to Roddy. Two ways to look at it. It's either the separator or the leveler. I know, I said to Roddy, I said, right now your horse isn't fast enough to win this race, but does that bridge the gap a little bit? You're finally getting out of the shadow of Monomoy Girl. But to me, if there's one horse in this race that wants 1.25 miles, at least on paper, I would think it's your gal.
Well, it'll be interesting how the racetrack plays. If it plays heavy today, which it very, very easily could after all the rain we've had, it could work to our advantage. My filly's a really big, strong filly. Route of ground's not going to hurt her chances, that'll help it. And if the track's heavy and the pace is right, it's race it very well. We could win.
Yeah, we're going to bring up a couple videos. First, we've got footage here of the Fairground Oaks where she puts in her, her patented late run and just misses on the line. We'll pick it up, but races is picking them up and passing horses. I would think again at 1.25 miles in a race where at least like it looks on paper, and she's going to make this big, bold late run to just miss. She's going to pass a lot of horses today.
Yeah, I think she maybe should have won here. If we had made our way through the rail up the inside, I mean, as you can see, she's last now, and she's making a big wide bid. And they've got a long stretch there at Fairgrounds, and yeah, she nearly gets it. And that's one of those close but no cigar. But she ran good, and she showed she fit in high-level company. Every race she gives her all.
Yeah, and the race we're going to pull up, and I want to thank Bri back in the trailer for grabbing this, because you mentioned it off the air before we started. A big allowance win, optional claimer, and we're going to show it here in a second, in the slop at Oaklawn. I know it was just against Allowance Company, and maybe there wasn't that much in there, but this is a race in the slop, so it's got to give you some confidence today. Whatever it is, and you see the track here, a total mess. Whatever it's going to be at around 5:15 this afternoon, there's still going to be a lot of moisture.
In this case, she's down on the rail. She's the number 2 here, and she started in the back like she normally does, and she's starting to ease her way up. But he was able to sit and wait, and he actually got in a position where he didn't have anywhere to go right here. He kind of took a hold of her, which I think is a good thing with her. I think she's a filly that you have to be patient and not make her run too soon. Right here, he's just got her in check and waiting and nowhere to go really. He's in a bit of a box, but this is how I think a rider needs to sit a little longer on her anyway and save that punch, and he was forced to do it in this spot. He's trying to go out, and of course he slides through on the inside, and this finish is pretty impressive.
Yeah, she draws off late, and like I said, we would hope that the track's not a total mess later on, but summer in Saratoga.
Oh yeah, we do. We hope it's a total mess. Right? Yeah, we hope it's dead, it's slow, and it's a mess, and they set a little pace, and then here we come.
Well,
as you can see, she really got over it well.
Absolutely, skips right over it. You mentioned pace, and I talked with Roddy about this with Coach Rocks. I mean, you look at this race on paper, there appears to be some hitting in there, and I would think Midnight Bijou in some way, shape, or form is going. Steve's other horse, she's just a Julie, wants to be involved early. maybe Cheap Speed from Auspicious Babe. Even Coach Rox has shown a penchant to be close. Certainly Talk Verve to me on the stretch out is going to be involved early. We know you're not going to be anywhere close to being involved early. But I would think, as you handicap this race and you look at it on paper, I would think it could set up for you.
I don't think there's anything obvious about it. I've handicapped it, and you really can't tell in these situations. I mean, if it takes a horse from the inside that takes a shot to make the first turn, and then somebody goes after him, then it completely changes the complexion of the race immediately. Whether there's early speed or middle speed, and all that stuff's completely out of our hands. Our job is to get them ready and make sure she's 1,000% when we lead her over there and let her do her thing. And, we pulled off a Travers in a similar way years back. And, I'd like to think Jose could ease her up the inside because she's not scared of the rail and certainly not the mud.
Right. I'm looking at the works here, just a couple maybe maintenance breezes since the CCA.
Long and slow. You know, she's an interesting story in that as a yearling, she didn't, let's say she didn't check the veterinarian's boxes. She's got some little issues that we've been able to deal with. So we make an effort to try to make her workouts longer and slower.
Okay.
And then save the really hard work for the race. She really only went what I'd call a long gallop to the quarter pole, and then a nice finish, and then a long gallop out. And we've made a real concerted effort to make sure that her workouts she went 12 and change or more in all those workouts, because we're risking inflaming an issue. And at this point, it's never been a problem.
Only ran twice last year, and it was headed out in her maiden win, and then came, in her first start, I should say, then came back and didn't run a lot. Did you just have to stop on her and get her ready?
I think that race was a bit of a throwout.
Okay.
She came back after that in the winter and did fine. But she's a really big filly. If you come to the paddock today and you look at her, you're going to see a massive filly. She's going to tower over most of the others in the race. And she was even big as a young horse. I was fortunate to spot her at the yearling sale. Gainesway Farm offered her as a yearling, and they ended up scratching her out of the sale because of the vet issue. And for fans out there, what I'm explaining is she has what they call lipping in her knees. So when a horse's joints set, she's got this lip of I guess you could say it scares certain vets, because if a horse presses that too hard, they flake them off. Okay. But the lipping kept her sales price down, and we ultimately brought Harold Lerner and Jack Cohen, and now Andrew Rosen's also a partner with Anthony Beck, and my wife owns a piece.
There you go.
What's hers is hers, and what's mine's hers. But
Keep
anyway,
everybody happy.
It's all good.
You mentioned you were very aware of her at a young horse. You look at her on paper, she's certainly progressed quite a bit at 3. Did you think you'd be, in the Alabama with a shot with this filly, or has she surprised you?
Yeah, you know what? After 2-year-old season, we really hadn't accomplished a whole lot, but all these horses are different. I mean, she wasn't a filly. Of course, we immediately went to 2 turns in her first race, and we did that because of the lipping issue in her knees. And we've stayed going along with her, but those kind of horses they take a little more time. And, but this filly's fast. I mean, she's got that turn of foot, as you saw in those 2 replays. She's fast, and as long as she knows, and our job's been to teach her when to run. And she knows how to do that. And today's going to be fun. I'm excited.
As a guy, that's in Kentucky and then in the Midwest over the winter, you've probably, Roddy joked that he's seen enough of Red Ruby. Have you seen enough of Monomoy Girl? I mean, you've chased her home.
You got to have a lot of respect for Monomoy Girl. I was really pleased and surprised it didn't run here.
Right.
But she's really, really good. Look, anytime a race softens up a little bit with her out of there.
Complain, right?
Red Ruby, I trained her half-sister Beautician. You may remember her.
Absolutely.
She was really good. That family out of Caroni's is great. And, of course, her last race was phenomenal. She's been unlucky, Red Ruby. She got hurt during the winter.
She got hurt.
I think it was a freak accident. And then today, her not being in there certainly helps us.
We're going to bring up footage of the coaching club. You got a race over the track. I thought it was a pretty good 4th. You were probably closer that day with the slow pace. We're going to bring up footage coming off the far turn, and she was in with a puncher's chance off the far turn. She's going to make a little move, and she kind of flattened out, but that might be as much because the best 3-year-old filly in the country is kind of walking on the lead here. Were you pleased with the effort?
Well, it was, truth is a give her a race. I mean, I thought if she was fourth or better, we were going to be happy. She is coming off a layoff for this race. It was a situation where I felt like she needed time coming out of the Kentucky Oaks. She'd run all winter. She hadn't really had a breather. I sent her over to my farm, and we gave her that breather. And she literally, there's no question in my mind she's 5 lengths shy in this race that she needed to get her ready for the Alabama. And I would much rather run a horse. I'm not a big worry about my percentage and stuff. I'd rather run a horse and get a good race over the racetrack that propels them into the next start. And that's where we're sitting here. I think today's going to be a big.
That was my next question. Saratoga main track. She obviously hadn't been over it before. It can be quirky. Not everybody handles it. Is it a big edge to have a race over the track coming into the Alabama today?
I think a lot of us coming from Kentucky, it's a different surface as compared to Keeneland and Churchill. So when we come up here, I do think getting a race over the track's a big deal. And then she was also wide in that race. Yeah. And if we could get a sneaky inside trip today is another thing we're hoping for. But this track's definitely heavier than a Kentucky track.
You pick up Jose Ortiz today. Is there instructions or rider off the break or what?
He came and got on her a couple days ago. I've asked him to watch specifically the race at Oaklawn in the mud. I asked him to watch how Alex Conchari was forced to kind of sit and wait, and how she exploded when he did. That's tough. I debated on bringing Lannery up early in the meet because he'd ridden her well. Conchari certainly doesn't ride this circuit, so I didn't see that being wise. And then I don't know if Castellano, he didn't do a bad job on her at all. I do think she needed the race. But the partnership, we talked about it, and we thought we'd give Jose a shot on it.
Yeah. You could do worse, Jose Ortiz at Saratoga. And I'm going to ask the same question that I asked to Roddy because, at least you look at this race on paper and you've got to find a few lengths. Is it the 1.25 miles? Is it the pace? Is it all of it together? Is it the fact that maybe some of these gals aren't going to handle it like your filly might? How do you bridge that gap?
Well, it's all the above. You've got this filly definitely needs pace in the race. She needs a racetrack that suits her style. She needs the right group. A lot of things can happen. We've pulled it off before. We've had horses up here. Golden Ticket was a horse that was an A other than going into the Travers.
Son of Speightstown getting a mile.
Yeah, we put it all together, and real proud of that effort. But it's a inexact science.
Yeah.
We all know that, and our job is to get them ready and unload them and fire away, and she's ready.
Do you look at the race on paper and say I've got to beat this horse, or this is the horse to beat, or do you more worry about your fillies?
Well, Midnight Bijou, we got beat a half length to her at Churchill going 1 1/8 miles, and so we got another 1/8 of a mile.
Right.
And so I think, can we get by her today? I think we can if we get the right circumstances. Right. She's going to have to regress a little bit. My filly's got to jump forward, 4, 5, 6 lengths, which I think we can do off getting the race in. And if you saw this filly, and what we know is inside information, of course, she had lost a bit of weight going into coming out of the Kentucky Oaks. We put the weight on her. She really filled out. She's probably 75 to 100 pounds heavier than she was when she ran in the Kentucky Oaks, and she needs that to be able to knock down a grade 1.
Right, without a doubt.
Need her stronger.
I think it is a compelling race in that there are a lot of different ways you can go in here. I've always thought that, these two-turn dirt races on the main track here are very demanding on horses. You want stamina. You want someone that can run on late. And I look at this race, and your filly, at least to me, is the one that is going to be doing the late running, whereas some of these gals, I think that 10th furlong is going to be pretty testing on a few of them. It's like the line that you always hear in the Derby. They're all going to get 1 1/4 miles. Some just might get it a little faster than the rest of them.
It's going to be fun. I love playing at this level.
Yeah.
Every
I
time
can see you're excited.
Every time we get a horse in the barn, they claim a lot of me, which is okay. But those are horses that we've already decided or determined that they're not going to compete at this level. And she's one that can and will. And if she's third or better today, it's a good day for everybody because it adds a lot. And Black Type,
that's a lot of residual.
Well, and ultimately, Anthony Beck, majority owner, he breeds horses. His family's owned Winning Colors and subsequently owned the Mare Silver Colors. And it's important to him that you get this kind of black type so that he takes her to the breeding shed and sells out of her.
Yeah, I mean, you're second in the Ashland, and as you mentioned, for breeding purposes, you can hit the board in the Alabama, two of the most historic dirt races for 3-year-old fillies in the country. When it's all said and done, that's got to be a big coup on the resume.
Well, if you win a Grade 1 with her and then you sell colts out of her, the value, you know, the sky's the limit on what they bring at auction. And so there's a bigger picture here than just a race today. In the long run, you know, people that breed horses are the bravest people in the world.
Right.
And we got to admire the work that they do, you know, whether it's, you know, owning a cheaper mare or an expensive mare. It's a big part of the game, and they need their own successes, and black type's a big deal.
Without a doubt, especially in a race like the Alabama. Kenny, I really appreciate you stopping by. I know it's a busy time, it's a busy morning, a lot going on. Eskimo Kisses today in the Alabama. I want to thank you. We've got a $100 gift certificate for you for Jacob and Anthony's over at 38 High Rock. They've got a good happy hour, a good dinner menu. It's a lot of fun over there. I really
Did Dale get one of these?
Dale did not get one of these. So you got you won one up there. Roddy got one, so maybe you can.
Dale's taking Roddy.
Yeah,
or Roddy's taking Dale.
Yeah, one or the other. Yeah, so maybe you can trade stories with each other. Kenny, I really appreciate you stopping by. Thanks a lot. Eskimo Kisses in the Alabama today. Best of luck to him. Again, we had Roddy Valenti on earlier with Coach Rocks. Appreciate Kenny stopping by. When we come back from the break, Graham Motion is going to be here talking turf, and we are going to be on the turf, we hope, at least, knock on wood, the way I am in the Lake Placid. Stay tuned.
For 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 96-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients and served in a home-like setting, where everyone is welcome. Some things have changed in the last 96 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very oppressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need it. It's right there in their hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Nathan to help them.
If you like to play the Late Pick 5, here's some great news. Capital OTB is now accepting internet wagering on NYRA's Late Pick 5 at Saratoga on all platforms and all digital devices. Simply log on to capitalotb.com, look for the icon, and there you go. If you're playing on one of your digital devices, just open your Capital OTB Bet icon, click on the menu button, and scroll down to find the Late Pick 5. Late Pick 5 wagering, now at Capital OTB.
Welcome back to Saturdays at the Spa. Brian Nadeau with you. A special thanks to Roddy Valenti. Stopped by a little earlier talking Coach Rocks. I know Roddy is amped up to have a contender in the biggest 3-year-old filly race we have. And frankly, if you're not, super in the loop, the Alabama is one of the most prestigious, one of the most historic 3-year-old filly races in the country, in the world. So I know Roddy is super excited to bring Coach Rocks over there today, and she's in with a chance, quite frankly, because we talked about it, and you know what, on paper she can't win the race, but I think the 1.25 miles is going to be the deciding factor, and that's going to help Coach Rocks bridge the gap a little bit, because I know she wants the 1.25 miles, and I think a lot of these gals are very suspect. Midnight Bijou, she's a Julie. Certainly Talk Verve to me, who was my pick in the race. She ran 2 turns for the first time last time at Indiana Grand, going 8.5, going 1 mile and 1/16. That's no guarantee you're going to get an extra furlong and a half today, that 1.25 miles. So we're going to see what happens, and I think Coach Rocks is going to be one of those ones that's going to pick up some pieces late. And then a big thanks to Kenny McPeak for stopping by as well, because Kenny's going to lead Eskimo Kisses over there today, and she is the one, at least on paper, when you look at the 1.25 miles Alabama, she is the one that is going to appreciate the distance more than anyone else. I don't think there's any doubt about that at all. I think her rallying from far back is going to be big, and she's going, I think, at least you look at it on paper, I think she's going to get some pace today. And again, she's going to be picking up horses going 1.25 miles, and you look at her, and she's the one. So I think she's a definite live long shot in here. Getting out of the shadow of Monomoy Girl is certainly not going to hurt either. Clearly, hands down, the best 3-year-old filly in the country. She beat up on Midnight Bijou last time in the Coaching Club America Oaks, and so Midnight Bijou is favored today in the Alabama. She's supposed to be favored today in the Alabama. I don't think she has to win the Alabama. I saw a filly last time in the Coaching Club that basically had to be second that day, and I'm not sure how she plays out at 1.25 miles. But that's the 9th race. The 8th race is going to be run on, we hope is going to be run on the turf. It's been a very trying, I'm going to bring Graham Motion in here. He's got The Way I Am in the Lake Placid. Graham, I appreciate you stopping by on a busy Saturday morning. On the turf today, as a guy that trains a lot of turf horses, pretty trying first 3 or 4 weeks up here at Saratoga, I would think.
It's been a tough meet for turf trainers, no doubt about it, except for Chad perhaps, but he covers all bases. But no, seriously, it's been a really tough meet for turf trainers.
Yeah. You're going to start a filly, regardless of the course condition, if it's yielding, if it's soft, a lot of give in the ground today. The Way I Am with her running style, from off the pace, how does it, you've run on a good turf course, you've run on a yielding turf course. She certainly handled it in the Appalachian. Is it a plus for you today?
Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised with this filly because she seems to handle anything that you throw at her. I thought she could be a Gulfstream specialist, which is a very, very fast, very firm, tight turf course. We went to Keeneland. She handled, really good fillies on soft grass. She handled Belmont going 1.25 miles. She didn't win, but she's running against the best in the country. So she's been very competitive on pretty much anything we've thrown at her. She's just a really neat filly to be around. We're
going to bring up footage of her graded win in the Swedish Chant at Gulfstream in February. Again, we're going to show that from the backstretch. She's a horse that settles, a typical European horse, I would think, that settles early and makes a pretty good run.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think she's fairly push button. I always felt that she handled Gulfstream so well because she's so nimble. She's a horse that could just make gaps when they open very quickly. She's just a neat filly to be around. So Johnny knows her. He rode a great in the Belmont Oaks. So
in this, talking about Gulfstream, this can be very much of a painted grass kind of highway, kind of a course. The fact that she got over it so well, did it surprise you a little bit? Because you see her flying home here. Did it surprise you a little bit in that, maybe she would be the kind that maybe this wouldn't turf course suit her running style a little bit. You can see horses get away on the lead there and forget to stop a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely surprised. I don't think I gave her credit for how good she is when we were in Florida. I thought she could be a Florida specialist, but she's really proved that she fits with the best in the division.
She's won at 7.5 in a mile, but you talked about the Belmont Oaks last time, stretching out to 1.25 miles. We're going to show it here. She makes a nice middle move in contention and then comes up a little short to Athena for the Coolmore and Aidan O'Brien folks. Couldn't have been disappointed. As you mentioned, you're running against the best of the best on the stretch out for the first time, 1.25 miles. Big effort.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know for sure she was going to handle 1.25 miles. I think that's probably why Jose jumped off her, because he probably felt, fair play to him. He probably thought his filly had a better shot at getting the 1.25 miles than the Way I Am did. None of us really knew. But then at the same time, it doesn't surprise me because she is just such a genuine filly.
Is it one of those spots where you just have to try it to figure it out, or what?
I think so. I mean, I'm certainly not smart enough to know if they'll handle it or not. I mean, you can tell by a horse's running style if they're going to relax to go 1.25 miles, but I don't think you really know if they're going to get the 1.25 miles till you try it. I'm not sure it's probably her best distance. I just think she handles everything. I think probably the cut back to 1 mile today favors her, I think.
That was the obvious next question. You cut back today from 10 to 9. You said a better distance for her. Are you excited on the cut back? Certainly a race like this is going to give her a ton of foundation, I would think.
No, definitely. Look, she's very fit. I mean, there's not much of her, and she's been running all winter, so she's a very fit filly. She's a filly we just try to keep happy. Fitness isn't going to be an issue. A lot of what it's going to come down to today is who handles this ground. It's got to be about as soft as we run on in New York.
Yeah, that's certainly the $64,000 question. I think the other thing in here, you look at this race on paper. I mean, first of all, do you look at this race on paper? And secondly, when I look at it, I don't see a lot of speed in here.
Yeah, I think she's going to have a cozy trip, not too far off the pace, being in the one hole with Johnny, who knows her.
Right.
Again, I think she's very adaptable, so I wouldn't be surprised if they don't go too quick. She's going to be handy.
Do you tell him anything, or
no? I don't tell Johnny anything.
Don't have to worry about telling a Hall of Fame jockey. A very tough race. How has she come out? You brought her back to Fair Hill and ran, worked on the synthetic down there. How has she come out since the Belmont Oaks and bringing you today to the Lake Placid?
She's done well. I mean, really, she's just had maintenance work. She's been breezing with Colonia, who runs in the Del Mar Oaks today. They kind of go as a team. They're very similar types. Colonia needs to get a bit more out of her work because she's not as fit as the Way I Am is, but she's really done everything we asked her to do. She's a real pro.
Did you ever consider, was the Lake George ever in the plans, or time for a little break after? I mean, she's run 6 times this year.
Yeah, I mean, she's run a lot already this year, and I just worry that it's going to catch up with her at some point, but we try to space her races. I think a filly like her that puts so much into their races, you've got to give them time to get over it.
3 times she ran in Europe. How did she come to your barn?
Brad Weisbord found her in Europe through a French bloodstock agent. He's been really clever at finding these fillies that fit over here. We have Colonia also that Brad found, and Secret Message, who won the Pucker Up last year. So we have a pretty strong group of these 3-year-old fillies that came over.
Did you, when you got her, you ran her pretty quickly. I mean, she ran July in Europe, and you bring her back at Keeneland. When you got her, did you say to yourself, well, I think this is a graded stakes kind of filly? What was she like when she first came to the barn?
I don't think so. I mean, I think her work's good enough, but I think, she still had to go out there and prove it to us, which she's done every time.
A lot of seconds and thirds at the meet. I would think this would be a good time to get one.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Even Indian Charlie's getting after me today. So,
well, I joke because he got after Kenny for putting on some weight, so I guess it could be worse, right?
Look, it's a tough meet. It's you're battling heads with the best in the game up here, and when you have the weather curve that's been thrown to us, it's been frustrating. Look, we win the Diana, we get beat a blip. If we win the Diana, we've already had a good meet. So.
We're going to bring it up here. Ultra Brat in the Diana runs an absolute corker and just comes up a little short. Stepped up that day off the big win at Pimlico, and I think she only beat 3 horses that day in a total bog that day. I was down there. A monster effort from Ultra Brat.
Yeah, this is going to be frustrating to watch again. I don't think I've watched it again. And I got beat the same way in this race last year, so this has been a frustrating race for me. It's a race I've always wanted to win since my days with Jonathan Shepherd.
Yeah.
It's a race that we always had a horse for. It's such a prestigious race. It's one of the races that you'd like to have on your resume.
I mean, you did lose to the best grass filly in the country, but this is a really monster race. I read some of your quotes after the race, and you said you were I believe you said you were trying to find out if she was a Breeders' Cup, kind of horse. I would think this effort. I know they go a mile and 3/8 at Churchill.
Unfortunately, to rub salt in the wounds, she's not 100% since the race, so we're going to have to give her a little time.
Little time, okay. Yeah. Big effort. The way I am today in the Lake Placid, as I mentioned, you look at this race on paper. You mentioned Chad Brown. He's got the 2 favorites in here. I would think in Rushing Fall. And then certainly significant form, but you gave her all she wanted in the Appalachian, so I would think you're not scared of anyone today.
No, look, I think it's going to come down to trip and who handles a soft turf. We've got to turn the tables on that filly, and somehow we've got to find an edge, whether it's a brilliant ride from Johnny or her handling the turf a little better than the others.
Yeah. Well, Graham, I want to appreciate you stopping by. I know it was a busy Saturday. We do have a $100 gift certificate for you for Jacob and Anthony's over on 38 High Rock.
Love it.
Great restaurant over there. Check it out. The way I am in the Lake Placid today, Graham, I really appreciate you making the time this morning. Yeah, good to see you. Thank you as always. And it's going to wrap up Saturdays at the Spa today. We had Roddy Valente on in the Alabama. He's going to bring Coach Rocks over with a definite chance, and then Kenny McPeak as well with Escobar Kisses, who I mentioned. She's going to be running on late in our premier 3-year-old filly race, one of the biggest 3-year-old filly races in the country. And then again, a special thanks to Graham Motion as well. The way I am in a really good, compelling renewal of the Lake Placid. It's kind of the gang's all here. I think obviously Chad's got Rushing Fall in significant form, and they're clearly the 2 fillies to beat. But the way I am is a multiple graded stakes winner. I haven't even mentioned Daddy is a legend. Mike Callahan picked her on top today. She won the prep for George Weaver, and with a win over the course is never a bad thing. So we'll see how it all shakes out. We'll be on the turf, we hope, and hopefully the range it just stays away, because as Graham mentioned, especially for a turf trainer, it's been a very trying, testing, first 25 or so days of the meet. So we'll see how it shakes out. Again, we're off the turf in the 4 races today, 1, 2, 7, and 10. We'll keep it on for the Lake Placid, the co-feature to the Alabama. Again, a special thanks to all my guests. I see Anthony Mormino doing his usual early arrival. He's got the bankroll today a little bit later. He's got some bullets to swing. Stay tuned for that. Don't forget, and he'll remind everyone, but if you're involved in the bankroll, you've got to make a bet today with your Capital OTB bet account to be eligible. So keep that in mind. Anthony will be up here in a little bit. I will be back Thursday, I believe, for the Handicappers Report, and then that's going to bring us into Travers Week. It's here. I can't believe we're saying that, but Travers Week is almost upon us, and that's going to be a lot of fun. 6 grade 1, 7 graded stakes, 4 Breeders' Cup win and you're in races. So we'll have all Travers all the time next week. But good luck today in the Alabama, the Lake Placid, everything else on the 10 race card here at Saratoga.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.